Good evening and welcome to the Rules, Enactments, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee meeting for this evening, August 11th. Did I do that? 2026. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask Legislator Birmingham to lead us, please.
Sure, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. I'll ask our clerk to call the roll, please.
Here.
Present. All right, so number 3 on the agenda is an approval for a litigation settlement. It's Malstrom v. County of Putnam. We have with us this evening our Deputy County Attorney John Cherico, and we have our NYMER representative attorney, Mr. James Randazzo. Please join us at the podium.
Good evening.
Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Are they green? Are they green? Are you
Yeah,
green?
make sure the green light is on and that you speak directly into the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so I know we have a potential approval this evening. I was wondering if there's anything you can talk about or fill us in on, or
Just Jim, if I may, for a moment.
Sure.
We had provided, as you know, a detailed settlement memo, confidential, to go through all the details, not only the procedural history of the litigation, but how we arrived at the point where NYMER believed that, excuse me, that the settlement number is appropriate and it's an appropriate time in the litigation to settle. And Jim and his firm have done a tremendous amount of work to put the county in as positive a position as possible. And if you have any specific questions with respect to how we got there or the case itself, Jim is prepared to address.
Yeah, of course. They had started out with a much higher demand in this case. Obviously, we're in contact with NYMER and the county attorney's office throughout the whole litigation. It's a case that we could not get dismissed on a motion. It was definitely going to go to trial. There were some issues in the case, and you get a jury, you're uncertain as to what's going to happen. So NYMER put a settlement value range that they thought was appropriate. I agreed with their assessment of it, and then tried to negotiate towards the low end of that, and we got very close to the low end of what they thought. So NYMER recommended that they settle this case on behalf of the county and just move on. And I think with this particular type of policy, unlike some of the other policies we have, they don't actually need the consent, but they always want to have everybody on board on the same page, to get it wrapped up. So we think it's a very good resolution considering where we are in the context of litigation and for what happened. And if there's any specific questions about the case, I'll be happy to.
okay. And if we have questions regarding something that's confidential, we'll have to go into executive session just to let you guys know.
That's my understanding. Correct.
Okay, so anyone from the committee have any questions or comments? Legislator Birmingham?
Just a quick question, which I think is general, but if it needs to go into executive session, that's fine. Will this be coming, if we do approve this, will the settlement amount be coming out of our insurer, or would it be coming out of our county budget?
So there is, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a deductible on this case,
Okay.
and the settlement is well within the deductible amount.
Okay.
Right.
So the county would be responsible for
Okay.
the settlement amount indicated.
Yeah, NYMER would pay it and then just bill the county for the amount as it's part of the deductible or included within the deductible.
Okay, thank you. Satisfied.
Any other legislators? Legislator Montgomery?
So, do we budget for this, or will there be a fiscal impact for 2026?
Not to interrupt, but I believe after speaking to members of the law department that there is sufficient amounts within our
Budgeted.
funds for this year to cover this amount.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the legislature? Legislator Regan?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman. To the extent it's possible for discussion, any dissension within the law department pertaining to settling?
None whatsoever.
None?
As Jim indicated that one of the reasons he's our favorite attorney is because he keeps us advised constantly. Everything about the case we know about. He's always open to discussion, any questions that we may have. So the county attorney and myself, who's really largely responsible for litigation within the department, we're fully on board with this decision.
Proceed. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Legislator Birmingham.
It was my understanding that I was your favorite attorney.
I misspoke.
Okay, okay.
Any other legislators have questions or comments? Anyone from the public? All right. Seeing as there is none, I will make a motion to approve the litigation settlement before us. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Everybody, enjoy the rest of the summer.
Thank you.
And for the legislators, this is confidential. It should be shredded after our meeting. Okay, moving on to agenda item number,
Excuse me, Chairwoman.
yes.
The procedural point of that, if this is going to go to the full ask that we don't shred it,
Oh, for our new policy. Okay, so put it in your boxes.
right? Yeah. We would save this.
Right,
for the
save
full.
this.
Does it go to audit after this, or would you go, this
Good
goes
point.
to the full?
There has to be a budgetary that probably go through audit.
It's
So,
going to go through audit, so we're going to save
All right, so-
this.
good
and
point.
Keep it for audit. Keep it for audit and for the next coming fall.
Perfect.
point.
Okay.
Thank
This
you.
goes back into your box. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item number 4. There should, no.
Oh,
Oh, okay. I didn't know if there was a budgetary attached to it. It goes to the full.
yeah, we already have a budget
Oh,
line
it's all,
for
that's right, because
settlements.
it's in
and,
the law department
yeah.
settlement line, so it'll come out of that. It'll be transferred. I get it. Okay.
For the full.
It will go to the full, for full approval of the legislature, yes.
There will be 2 resolutions, so there's a redacted version, just like you had, and then there'll be the confidential one that will be given to the legislators. Law Department provided that.
Perfect. Great. Everybody got that? Okay. Next item. Agenda item 4A. Excuse me. We have a discussion this evening for the approval amending Resolution 94 of 2026 for the designation of the official newspaper. We had some, in the past, last year and this year, we've had some snafus with our newspapers. Our official newspapers not able to get our official documents posted in time for our legal purposes. And to try to remedy that, we have 2 proposals in front of us. One proposal by Legislator Crowley, one proposal by Legislator Montgomery. I will give the floor to Legislator Crowley. She's the first one to send a proposal if you want to maybe talk about what you put forward.
So, we've seen a lot of things come back to us, that in the past, unfortunately, the newspapers seem that they're dying. It's very sad, and we want to have a resolution that number one saves us from having to come back and be called in last minute to have a meeting where not everybody can be there, maybe, also have a consistent experience with something where it's going to be publicized in an appropriate manner. So I worked with Heather to bring this forward to amend Resolution 94, which we brought upon this year, designating the official newspaper. I suggested low HUD and also online when we could. I see Legislator Montgomery also proposed something too. I think in the matters of this, I'm good with either or paper, just as long as it gets published and we're not back here and having to claw back things and then we vote. I'm gonna go with either or.
So this particular resolution has the official Putnam County website designated as the official publication platform.
which we can use as per legislative council.
And except where publication in newspapers expressly required by law. Okay. So if a notification is specifically required by law, it will still be the designated newspapers. And then where they're unavailable, we will go to the Putnam County Press. If they cannot, then we will go to the Journal News, the low HUD.
And I would just like to say one more thing. I would like to, and I commend Legislator Montgomery on weighing in on this. I'd like to look at the cost on both the low HUD versus Highlands Current, and and see which one is more, more effective for the residents of Putnam County. And I would suggest going with that publication.
So can I was gonna just ask our legislative council, when we pick a newspaper, it has to be circulated throughout Putnam County. And I think that's always been the problem, not the problem, but the issue with,
Correct. That was why the Highlands Current was listed in Legislator Montgomery's proposal as a supplemental. And it will just further the publication, but it can't be the sole because it doesn't meet the criteria for the circulation.
correct. So, I mean, for me, I think I'm fine with a supplemental for the, because, I want to support our Putnam papers. For a supplemental, I think that would be good. It can't be the sole, is my understanding. And that's what you're telling me as well.
Correct.
I'm going to let Legislator Crowley finish, and then I'll go to Legislator Montgomery for her.
The Journal News shall serve as county designated paper publication is fine, and I'm willing to amend, and if they cannot add the Highlands, we can add the Highlands, we can't do that.
No, it would just have to be a supplemental if we wanted to
Add
further the
supplement,
circulation.
we have to do a supplemental, do we have to name the publication or not?
Legislator Montgomery wanted to have the supplemental just to further the publication, but there's no requirement that you have a supplemental.
Enough to cover and make sure and print it out and cover.
Correct. And LOHUD was, suggested as, the fallback just because it has a larger circulation, a larger everything. It's less likely to have problems in the ways that we've seen with some of the smaller publications.
Okay, so I will now, I'll call on Legislator Montgomery to maybe discuss her proposal and talk about the the Highlands Current.
Sure, and I'll just mention, tagging on to the conversation that just happened about requirements, and it's not so much circulation throughout the county. I'm sure that the Highlands Current could appease us and circulate throughout the county. They already do in many areas throughout the county, and they would just bolster that. The reason why the Highlands Current can't be the official paper of record is because of New York State general construction law, which defines a newspaper as having paid circulation, among other things. And the Highlands Current says itself that it's a print newspaper and it's free to the public. So there's many complications around this general construction law and regarding the press, which should be addressed later on, as we as a legislature should advocate on the state level for those laws to change. My purpose in writing the resolution that I wrote was simply, we're simply giving LOHUD our paper of record status. It's not generally circulated anywhere where I live. It is a paid subscription. If the real purpose and our intent is for public notice, Legislator Crowley's resolution does serve that purpose in its technical sense and our legal sense, but it doesn't serve the purpose of public notice because the public isn't going to see it. We're legally covered. So if the purpose is a public notice, then the public notice should actually be reaching people who need the information, and the structure doesn't allow that. So the reason I put forward the Highlands Current was recognizing Legislators Crowley's intent that there is a real problem here. So I'm not moving away from anything from her proposal, but just adding when notices also sent to the Highlands Current, it's supplemental, if it can accommodate. And as her resolution allows, it's legally sufficient and public access at the same thing. We should accomplish both. And I think my resolution does that. The resolution I drafted, it recognizes the reality that the Journal News provides the qualifying backup when legally required. The Highlands Current provides additional local access to residents. It's not a weakness. It's just one of its strengths to give this the supplement. They can't replace LOHUD or Putnam Press legally because they don't qualify. There's precedent for it. The town of Phillipstown and the village of Cold Spring had similar problems, and they also added the Highlands Current as supplement. So, state law, again, I want to refer to state law could just require that a print publication have libel insurance or have audited circulation, whether paid or free. I want to say that this discussion points to the larger New York State issue. There's a really interesting article that I received today about exactly this issue. It describes communities around New York State struggling with these crazy, antiquated requirements, including lots of upstate counties where free circulation community newspapers are like the only thing happening, and they are able to publish legal notices only because they happen to be grandfathered in, like our Putnam Press. The reason why we have them is because they were grandfathered in before, drumroll, 1940. So we need to update these antiquated laws, that's all. So hopefully we can come to this agreement and actually serve the purpose of what we're intending to do here, and that is giving people actually public notice instead of just meeting the legal requirement of spending the money to put stuff in the low HUD.
So just to be clear, we are choosing the Putnam County website where it's not as our official platform for publications of public notices that are not required to be published in a newspaper. We are still having the Putnam Press as our official, we're designating them as our official newspaper. Bar anything happening, Putnam County Press doesn't get our laws, or they don't get our publication, or don't get it in on time. We have 2 supplemental backups, possibly. This is not every time, but if the Putnam County Press, our number one, is not available, we have 2 potential backups, the Journal News and Nancy Montgomery's is the Highlands Current. Is that what I'm understanding through the
No.
law department?
It's not 2 backups because the
No.
current can't serve as a backup.
One or
The
the other.
current would be a supplemental. And also just
Right.
to follow up on what Legislator Montgomery is saying is that, for example, Erie County did petition New York State, and Erie County has exempted itself from this requirement of the paid circulation. So it is possible to be done.
So the Highlands Current would be supplemental to the Journal News, because the Journal News would be the second implemented newspaper
Correct.
if the Putnam County Press is not available.
Correct.
Okay. Anything new? Because I'd like other legislators.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I want to do its best. I mean, we're moving into, or we are in an electronic world right now, and I would love to write a resolution to follow Erie County and it's submit it to Albany and see what we can do, because that's the way of the world right now. Low HUD is an expensive subscription. That's true. I don't know how often we're going to have to use the Journal News realistically, and I don't want to burden the taxpayers with the bigger cost. So Putnam Press, when they can do it, it's online, then it's Putnam Press, then it's low HUD. Then we have a third, which doesn't meet the requirements, but it's there. I don't know. I think petitioning Albany would be a better option. That's just my opinion right now.
This is, I mean, for me, this is our Band-Aid until Albany can react and get us on to the 21st century. But for now, we have to cover ourselves so that we can make our publication, our official notifications. And I will open it up to the committee now. Legislator Birmingham.
Yeah, thank you. So it's my understanding that, and I'll ask Heather this, if we pass this tonight and into the full, anytime we have something that needs to be published, like a local law for a public hearing, if we publish it on our website, and let's say it doesn't make it to even though we send it to an official newspaper, that publication would still be, or that posting on our website would still qualify us to hold a public hearing. Okay,
Correct, unless there is some other provision of law that requires
got
newspaper publication. It's a way to cover ourselves that we're following our own rules, that we are publishing pursuant to that. And as you pointed out, that unless there is some other provision of law, that would qualify.
So, in other words, then is it my understanding that as long as it gets on the county's website,
We've
And
met our publication
we've met our
requirement.
publication, so the supplemental item, newspapers like LoHUD or the Highlands Current would never really need to be used except in those instances where a publication is required to be in a physical newspaper.
Yes, it is meant to satisfy those statutory requirements so that if we have something like this where the press just isn't responding to us or something we're aware and we know that it has to go into a newspaper by law, we have alternatives.
That's
I-
fine. Yeah.
Just ask our legislative counsel one question is, what is specific, or what types of things specifically must be noticed in our official newspaper?
There's a variety of them, things to do with foreclosure, things to do with election petitions. There's various tax provisions that have to do it. I mean,
Notices for bond resolution.
yeah, well, exactly. So there's, there's a variety of things that under the law have to go in there, and those are just some examples.
And those are currently notified in the Putnam County Press.
Yes, and we've had circumstances where, for whatever reason, they either don't respond or aren't able to get it published on time, and then because we didn't meet those requirements, we've had to go back, and so this is to avoid that circumstance.
Okay, anyone else on the committee? Any of the Legislator Regan?
Thank you, Chairwoman. First and foremost, to address something that Legislator Montgomery said, the assertion that the LoHUD is not widely circulated on the western side of the county is not really accurate in as much as that's a function of the constituents. The person who lives on the furthest western or eastern part of this county has equal opportunity to purchase LoHUD and see what's on there. But I have a question for both proposals through the chair, in as much as that when we said if a paper can't do it, then we're going to go to this one. Just to bring up the example which happened recently is that it would seems that everybody on the county satisfied their requirements, and it was not until after the clock struck 12 that the paper didn't or wasn't able to publish. So in that scenario right there, in the goal of trying to accomplish this, are we providing in either one of the proposals for that? Because we're saying if this paper can't do it, then we go to this paper. If this paper can't do it, we'll go to this paper. But in the circumstance that just caught us short, we had notified the paper, but
Yep.
the paper didn't send it. There would have been no time for us to realize that error was made and then send it to a supplement. So through the chair, asking both of the proposals, do either ones just account for that it's automatically sent out, or we're going to do A, if A doesn't work, we go to B, if B doesn't work, we go to C?
Just for me, I would guess that it's the law department. If they don't hear back from the
Yes.
Putnam Press, it's the law department who has to make these official notices. If they don't hear back, then it would be up to the law department, and I'll let our legislative counsel weigh in.
Yes, what happened in this instance was that they reached out to the Putnam Press and didn't hear back. Based on both of these proposals, if they didn't hear back, they would move on to another opportunity. They wouldn't just sit and wait, because under our current provision, the only thing that they could use was Putnam Press. They were sort of hamstrung having to wait for it. And further, what we're doing here is we are, no matter what, going to publish on our website,
Right.
which in every circumstance other than where it's required by law to be in a hard paper, we will be covered, because once it's up on the website, we're giving notice.
Which is great, and thank you. And that does answer both those questions for the ones that don't require the physical, but in the ones that do, we're going to go on the website and then still go A, B, C, because that might
We're-
not provide enough time for that
We're
other part.
we're gonna, if we don't hear back and get confirmation that they're gonna publish it right away, it's gonna go right to the next provision, because we've realized exactly what you said, that if we wait, we might miss our opportunity. So we're going to give them an opportunity to publish. If we don't hear back from them in a, reasonable period of time that day, we're gonna go to the next option.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Legislator Montgomery, and then Legislator Crowley.
So just following the timeline of what was just discussed here, and I had to take notes. So to talk about what Legislator Regan was talking about, they all have different deadlines, right? So we might meet one. Also, I'd like to amend my statement about not being circulated over on the west side of the county. It's not circulated throughout the county in that people can't purchase it sometimes because it's expensive and a lot of people don't subscribe to it throughout the county. So just to amend that. But what they do have, which is a good thing and why we should be using LOHUD, is the public notices are free online. Not everybody knows that. Not everybody goes online to LOHUD. You can't access their articles, but you can access their public notices online, and that's why we should definitely be using them. So, and then to go back to clarifying, not clarifying, but to talk about what Legislator Chairman Birmingham was talking about, just to read what it says in Proposal 4B, it does say, whenever the journal news is used pursuant to this paragraph, you read the paragraph above it, the notice shall also be submitted to the Highlands Current. So when and if it has to be submitted to LOHUD, it's going to be submitted to the Highlands Current. But it doesn't stop there. The resolution doesn't stop there. And I think we can, it goes on to say the Highlands Current may also be used as a supplemental publication for any other county notice, announcement, enactment, or matter when additional publication would provide broader local access and further the public notice purpose of the publication. Because if the purpose of a public notice law is public notice, then the public notice should actually be reaching the people who need the information. It's not always reaching people through the ones that we assign it to. So that's why this 4B was written the way it did. It was, we just had a situation where we're really interested in getting local input on the action plan for climate resiliency, right? And we have a September 13th deadline, I think. Please don't quote me on that. And we really need community input. Yet, the county didn't take out an ad in any paper to get that input. The planning department did contact local papers, which the Highlands Current is usually never contacted, to say, hey, community, guess what the county's doing? Participate in this, here's the link. So this codifies that in a way. It puts it in there, hey, we should be using this paper because there's thousands of Putnam County residents who read it. And if we want to get county information out to them, here's where we should put it in addition to these other publications. And it serves our purpose for missing that public notice publication perfectly.
Legal, do we have a legal?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out also that while the purpose of the general constructions law was to ensure that you had broad circulation, the idea was that, back in the day that paid newspapers had the broadest circulation. That actually is not true in this county. In this county, the broadest circulation is the free paper. And so I think that the law, when it was envisioned, was contrary to the reality of what our situation is today. So I would say that if the idea is to reach the broadest scope, it does make sense to have a supplemental that is the free paper that has most widespread reach within our community.
I think Legislator Crowley, you were next.
And then as we talked about while petitioning Albany, it was talked about that LOHUD online for our use is free. So, and it can be reached all over the place. So we're not going to be charged. It can reach Cold Spring, it can reach Patterson. It will be free for classifieds and for legal, notices, and it doesn't cost anybody to read them. They can go on it anywhere, wherever they may be, different country, different state, they can still access it. So I don't believe that we need this supplemental for this purpose.
I would like to support a Putnam paper, but I don't think we need the supplemental. I have a newspaper in my town, and my town has the largest population in the county, the Mayapack News. Everybody reads that paper. We have the largest population here. I could make a case to add the Mayapack News here as supplemental as well. I don't think that's fair. I think for our legal purpose, just as me, and we'll take a vote, of course. But I think for me, if we're just doing the supplemental, I think the Highlands, the low HUD would be sufficient. We went through all this at our organizational meeting, and it's just me, but Legislator Montgomery, I'll let you respond to that.
Yeah, thanks. I just really think we can do better as a county and as a legislature. We just went through this whole process for months, over maybe a year. Actually, it's been since 2020 for me in advocating for transparency and getting the public involved. So why wouldn't you want more access? There was a time in this county where we assigned 4 papers to be our paper of record, I believe. So you could make an amendment to this resolution, including the Mayapack News as well. I think we should do better as a county. I would ask if any of the legislators on this committee have any questions about 4B, because I would be happy to answer them. The purpose of 4B is to supplement, to serve the purpose of what this law is for, and that is for public notice.
Legislator Birmingham.
Yeah, along those lines, I'm trying to synthesize what both of you were just talking about. I think we started out with 4A, which is great, and it put in which legislator Crowley suggested, and that got us thinking about what we needed to do, and it's got good stuff in it, and everything I think that's in 4A is in 4B, with some supplemental items or additional items. I'd like to, just to get us going, I'd like to move 4B with an amendment to also include the Mayapack News, not in keeping in mind that we're not requiring every legal notice to go in each of these papers, but only in those instances where we may have to rely on supplemental publication, both of those newspapers be included. So I'll make that motion to move 4B along with anywhere it says the Highlands Current, also to add, and the Mayapack News. And I don't know if I have a second on that.
I'll second that. All in favor?
No.
On the amendment,
On
aye.
the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. 1 no.
So now we're back to the main question, 4B, as amended.
Okay, so 4B as amended, including the Mayapack News, which is this is the supplemental
Right.
to the Journal News if the Putnam County Press is unavailable. So this is in the instance if Putnam County Press, our official newspaper, is unavailable. Any further discussion on this amended? Legislator?
Thank you. The Journal News is not seen at all in Putnam Valley. It was mentioned before to just go buy it. I've tried to buy the Journal News in 3 or 4 different places. Can't find it. They come with 1 or 2 copies, and that's that. When I first moved up here, every mailbox had a Journal News thing on it, but that's changed. Now you can't find a Journal News distributed at all throughout the county, throughout Putnam Valley. The Highland Current, I know it's there. I haven't really seen it. Mayapack News is a great paper, but they don't publish anything outside of Mayapack. I would say leave everything the way it is. And we have 5 months till we do this again. And put the Journal News, Highland Current, Mayapack News, and the Putnam Press on notice that we're going to change this again in January. Step up your game, and the legislature at that time can choose on what paper or papers they want to do. So I would say keep it status quo. It's only 5 months from now when we make that decision again, and go from there.
I just have
Legislator Birmingham?
Yeah, and I'm loath to do this because I usually don't trust anything on the internet, but I just typed in, can you subscribe to the Journal News in New York? And it says, yes, you can subscribe to the Journal News, lohud.com in New York. They offer multiple subscription plans, including digital only access, e-newspaper options, and print delivery bundles covering the lower Hudson Valley region. I'm old-fashioned. We used to get my newspaper delivered. And again, this is what I pulled off the internet. Don't take it as statute, but I believe you can still subscribe to the physical old newspaper and get it delivered to your house. No matter if you live in the Hudson Valley, you can do that.
Right.
So it does have a general circulation within the county, whether you live in Cold Spring or Patterson or Brewster or Mayapack, or Putnam Valley, you can get the paper and you can subscribe to a physical. Let's not forget, we didn't have online options 20 years ago. This is how people got their news, and it was good enough back then. I think if we wait 5 months, I just wouldn't want to see. I don't want to see us scrap anything tonight, but I certainly don't want us to kick this down the road till January, because at that point we may have 2 or 3 other instances where we might, our newspaper of record might miss a deadline.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think we're nitpicking on something and we're going to throw it all out. We have a problem in front of us, and we can change it in January at the organizational meeting. The new legislature can change it at the new organizational meeting. Legislator Crowley.
Just my last bit. I mean, again, you can go online to LOHUD and it's free anywhere, and you can see it. If you're a real estate agent in Connecticut, you can go on LOHUD and see what is being put on there in New York for free. I subscribe to Mayapack News gets delivered to my house every 3 weeks, I think it is now. And every week, I think they do an online, whatever.
Online, they do online every week.
But honestly, the only one that meets the criteria is LOHUD right now.
Right.
So if we are in a jam and people can't make it to a meeting because we don't have a newspaper on record that can publish this, what are we doing? We have to have a secondary, and that's the only one that fits the record is LOHUD. So.
Okay. Legislator Goldman, did you have something else?
I just do a quick survey. Who in this room actually subscribes to the Journal News Online?
I mean, I don't know. It's not.
Okay.
Not because I want to.
But I read the legal ads every day.
I read a
Yeah.
lot on there. And
I read
some
the
are free
legal
and Some
ads.
are not.
This is supplemental if our
Yeah,
official
press
newspaper.
fails.
This is not our official publication. This is a supplemental in case our official
It's the only one that
publication.
meets the
So hopefully we're not going to have to use it. But if we do,
requirements.
we
Keep status quo until January.
Yeah, but then we have to meet again, sorry, through the chair.
can.
We have to meet through the, we have
let-
to meet again.
So I'm going to have Legislator Montgomery have the last word, and then I think I'm going to call the question.
Again, I think we can do better, especially based on the sentiment of this legislature for the past year in transparency and access. And we have an opportunity here that will not harm anything to add 2 more newspapers as supplemental, maybe to put department heads on notice that, hey, we can use these papers for ads, publications, notices, and we should be, because those are the papers that our constituents use and read. So it clearly says, the last line in the resolution, it's not the last line, but it says broader local access, and further the public notice purpose of the publication that we want to get out to the public. You have an opportunity tonight to do this and to incorporate small businesses, support them in any way we can, and just get news of the legislature and the county out to more publications that serve the people who actually live here.
Okay, with that, I am going to make a motion to pass the 4B as amended, adding the Mayapack News wherever Highlands Current is listed. Do I have a second?
Second?
Roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to go out of order so that we can have our DA join our discussion. I'll make a motion to bring forward agenda item number 6. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will move discussion item number 6 for local law amending the county charter, limiting and restraining the salaries of certain elected officials. This is agenda item number 6. This was proposed by Legislator Birmingham. I'll give Legislator Birmingham the floor to begin our discussion.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the district attorney for being here tonight. The genesis of this are a couple of reasons. first, I'd like to start with what we have before us is one local law dealing with one subject, which is the adjustment and, as it says here, the limiting and restraining of salaries of certain elected county officials. And just as a broad stroke effort here to tell you what this is doing, it would limit and restrain the ability for the county government to increase the salaries of legislators and the county executive and the chair of the legislature. A couple of days ago, last week, I had asked the auditing department to send me a list or send me a breakdown of how many full-time county employees make less money than we do at $48,000 a year. We are part-time employees. Technically that's what we are. We have almost 50 county employees who, whether they pave our streets or answer the phones or deal with the public on a full-time basis, we have almost 50 of them making less than we do as part-time people. And I'm not trying to compare apples to oranges, but I think it's important that as elected officials, we set the tone as far as husbanding our taxpayer dollars. So if you take a look at the proposal I have before us, Section 1 of this local law talks about the legislator salaries. And as you can see, it's the blue is the additional and the red is the stricken. The way it currently reads right now is that one of our powers as a legislature under Article 2, Section 2.04 is to, paragraph O, to fix the amount of the annual salary of its members by resolution, provided, however, that the chair shall receive an additional stipend of 25% salary. So that's the way it reads right now. Every year we set our salary as legislators, and in our current charter it says the chair gets an additional 25% on top of that. I know I'm not alone when I say this, and I'm not trying to beat my chest about this. I don't accept the legislative chair's stipend. I know many of my predecessors as chairs did not accept the legislative chair stipend. Yes, it's more work, but if it's more work, then and you don't want to do it, you shouldn't run for chair. So I'm not trying to say I got mine. I don't want to give it to anybody else. I'm not accepting it now. And with respect to our annual raises we get every year, I know I'm not the only one at this table that doesn't accept an annual raise, even though we budget for it. So what I'd like to propose is the blue portions and of course the stricken red, so that the new section would read that one of our powers is to fix the amount of annual salary of the legislative members by resolution, provided, however, that beginning on January 1st, 2027, the annual salary of its members, meaning the legislature, shall not be increased more than once in any 4-year period, and such increase shall not exceed the average annual consumer price index for such preceding 4-year period. And then put a semicolon there. In other words, strike the rest of the sentence. So in other words, what I'm proposing here with respect to us, with respect to the legislators, is to limit our ability to raise our own salaries and to be able to only do it once every 4 years and by no more than the CPI. Again, I'm not trying to grandstand, and I'm not saying I got mine and people that are coming after me don't get theirs. Again, I didn't accept my salary increase for this most recent go-around on the legislature. So that's the first part of it. And the second part of it is dealing with Article 3. Again, all the same local law, all dealing with the same topic, is Article 3, Section 301, which talks about our county executive, the chief executive officer. Right now, it currently reads, and this is where we got some input from, among other department heads, our district attorney. I'd like to strike the following. He or she, meaning the county executive, shall be the highest paid salaried county employee, with the exception of those county employees required to be duly licensed to practice medicine in the state of New York as a qualification of employment, the district attorney, or any other employee whose salary is partially or fully set by state law. So what that would do is strike out the requirement that's been in our charter since 1977 that requires the county executive to be the highest paid salaried official. And I think that's important, and I think we might have some comment from our, the public, our DA a little later, but I think having that in there kind of presents a recruitment issue with some of our higher paid employees. I can think of, people in the health department. I can think about law enforcement officials. I can think about perhaps assistant DAs, and I'm not going to speak. Our DA is here to talk about that, so I don't want to preempt or, suppose anything that he might say. But I think by having an artificial ceiling of no county employee can make more than the county executive, we could run into retention issues with respect to some of our longest serving employees, people who have 20 or 30 years in the county government, who have been on the front lines. And that's the effort in my effort in trying to amend the law that way. And then also similarly, that the county executive salary, this is the last part of that, the added section, such compensation shall be increased no more than once in every 4-year period. What I did there is I left out by design the CPI requirement. But again, I think it's still a bridle and a restraint on increasing the county executive salary, that it can only be done once every 4 years, and that it can only be increased by whatever the legislature says it should. Now, if one of my colleagues want to amend that and tie that into the CPI as well, I'm not against that. But I do recognize there's a difference between our part-time jobs and the county executive's full-time job. That was my thinking in not bridling back working in the CPI here over 4 years. Maybe the county executive salary should go up by more than CPI. I don't know, but I didn't want to limit that here. I do think we need it in ours, because I do know that there was a jump a few years back, a well-deserved jump, I might add, because it hadn't been increased for 7 or 8 or 12 years, and that in order to get the legislators where they needed to be at one point, and again, I wasn't on the legislature when this happened, and I'm not faulting that decision that was made, because it was quite a long time that the legislators did get an increase. But I think this brings some regularity to the process, some predictability, and some honest brokering with our constituents, and letting them know that we don't view our jobs as any more important than what they may do in their private sector, or certainly not more than our full-time county employees who might make less than us. So those are some of my thoughts. I'll turn it back to the chair, and certainly would be willing to discuss it further, answering questions as to my thoughts behind this. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislator Birmingham, for bringing this forward. I think it's a great idea. I was not on the legislature when the legislature had to vote for that 14% increase at that time. They hadn't had an increase, I want to say, in over, 10, 15 years. And they would have been making less, or they would have been making a lot more had they not taken that 14%, if they would have been taking the annual increase. So the legislature took a huge political hit that year. It was a big political football. Since then, when I spoke to the Commissioner of Finance before I was even on the legislature, I said that just doesn't seem fair to me. It seems very political, and people, I guess that's the nature of the game when you're in politics. And he said, well, when you're on the legislature, you can vote to increase incrementally at certain times, and not have to force a future legislature to vote on a 14 or 15% increase. So that's what I stuck to. So I've always done that. But I think this is probably a better way to go, because I've seen it increase since I've been here. If management gets an increase, the legislature gets an increase. I'm like, okay, that seems fair. If management gets an increase, then we get an increase. But I really do think that Legislator Birmingham is right in calling this out, and I think it would be fair every 4 years. Those are just my thoughts, the way I've looked at it over the 8.5 years I've been on the legislature, and had witnessed all of that, with the legislature having to go through that, and having salaries always be a political football that just, for me personally, I don't call out anybody's salary as a political gain. You're taken away from your families, and you should be compensating for, your long hours. But I also think it needs to be fair, and I think what Legislator Birmingham has proposed seems really rounded and fair, and then I'll open it up to Legislator Goldman.
Thank you, Chairwoman. How do we come up with 4 years for the legislature when there's 3-year terms?
Well, it was really just more or less, had to come up with something, and I originally started at 6. So
Well, we just picked 3 years, it's a 3-year term.
Well, because it'll always, by the nature of our rotation as legislators, it's always going to come up during the middle of somebody's term. And I don't think either 4 or 6 or 3 would make a difference. We could go to 3. I mean, that's not a showstopper for me. Certainly not something that I'd vote against this if there was an amendment to do 3. I'm not sure I'd vote for that amendment, but I think 4 also kind of mirrors the period of time set forth in this in Section 2 with respect to the county executive, so that maybe both of those items could be considered together, so that there's not any sort of you got yours last year, I want mine this year. So it was in that vein of thought as well that 4 kind of matched both. The county executive's term is 4 years, and if we were to go to 3, what that would mean is that over time we would have an increase of salary more frequent than the county executive, and I'm not sure that's fair.
Also comment on that. If you increase it every 3 years, there's one legislator who's always going to get an increase every time they're up for re-election, I think. Yeah. I think 4 is more staggered for me personally, but we'll open it up to the floor. Legislator Crowley. That's the only thing that legislature's taken so far. I mean, that's all we've done is a COLA. I don't think this takes into account COLA. This is no.
So that's what I'm asking, is that since I've been in office, I'm in my fourth year, the only thing that the increase has been the COLA.
Only a COLA, correct.
And I've rejected my COLA by choice, but if my, let's say, circumstances changed and I needed to change that, that wouldn't be a raise, that would be a COLA, which we see differently. We discussed it all as per the auditor, correct? It's not a raise, it's a cost of living adjustment, and that's not being factored in here. So we haven't seen a raise since I've known the
No.
legislature. The COLA adjustment, I haven't taken, but others have. I don't think I have the right to tell others how they should or should not live, and if they get a cost of living adjustment. Also, we should factor in insurance stipends, if we don't take in insurance, and what kind of insurance we get. I mean, there are people in this legislature who have different insurance rules because they've been here much longer than others, and they get different, and they have different things they make, or they don't have to do this at all. Just grandfather in, it's free, so.
Well, I don't think there's any free insurance for anybody in the county. It's minimum 10%. If you're asking though what the sponsor's thought was behind whether a COLA is factored in here, and again, this is my thought as a legislator, and I'm surprised to hear that COLA is something other than a raise. To me, COLA is just French for the word raise.
You didn't cite that.
But no, I didn't cite a COLA because I said any increase, and I thought that in normal English language, putting aside any sort of understanding of what a COLA might be separate from a raise, I view a COLA as a raise. Cost of living adjustment is a raise. And any increase. So the word increase is quite precise. COLA is not.
Right, but, okay, in Dan Wald,
Mhm.
you're very specific as to what you're
Increase.
talking about.
Yep.
Increases, yes, but COLA is viewed differently. It's a cost of living adjustment. It's not considered a raise. It's been discussed many times in this room that it's not a raise, and I think that it's an increase.
Is it
It's
increase?
an
Yes.
increase, yes, so
So-
I'm just asking, would that need to be specified, or?
I believe it is with,
Or is that considered in this, because, Dan, you're very specific. so.
yes. Well, if we can all agree on math, maybe. If our salary last year was $47,000 and our salary,
Wasn't.
but no, your budgeted salary was. Your budgeted salary was, as all of ours were, was roughly $47,000. If our budgeted salary this year is $48,000, can we all raise our hand if we think that's an increase? I think that's an increase. 47 to 48 is an increase. And this was specifically designed to use the word increase. It says shall not be increased more than once in any 4-year period. So I can explain it to you. That's my thought behind it. And I don't think it's open to interpretation as to, except for a COLA, we can't read into this what's not there. The word increased is there. The word COLA is not.
Okay, Legislator Regan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Couple things. I'm concerned with the conflagration of the district attorney's initiative and prior discussions about recruitment and retention in this particular discussion sort of injecting the legislatures and the county executive into what we seem to discuss and all thought was a very valid and important discussion about giving the tools to the district attorney to recruit and retain employees. And I can't help but notice here, because we're scratching that portion out, that we're pulling the district attorney's conversation into a conversation about the legislature and the county executive, when I think that conversation should stand on its own merits. But I will ask a question through the chair of the proposed. It does say, with the exception of employees required to be licensed to practice medicine and the district attorney, does it not? So the current statute provides that exception. No, I'm reading that incorrectly?
It
You don't
provides
need
the
it.
exception for the office of district attorney.
Only.
It does not provide the exception for any assistants.
Any assistants.
Or any deputy county attorneys, or any health technicians, or any doctors that we may hire in the future that are not required to have their MD as part of their job. So that's all, under my proposal, all coming out so that it's very clear that in essence, it's going to be, essentially the county executive is no longer the highest paid county official.
Okay, thank you. So you answered that question. So my original point still stands. I still think that the initiative from the district attorney's office for recruitment and retention should stand on its own and be tended to on its own merits, and not so much pulled into what is, quite frankly, right, if you get into the politics of the legislature and the county executive, it could get muddied. So I'd like to see that conversation separate. But to the chairwoman's point about previous consternation when there was an increase, another concern with this proposal is that when that 4-year window comes up, you're almost subjecting future colleagues to the lines then.
Correct.
Instead of saying COLA or piecemeal increases along the way, if we get to that 4-year mark, and even if you look back and say, okay, we're going to do 2%, now all of a sudden that legislature had got a headline, you're getting an 8% raise, and it would just be the 2% that say they would have gotten over the course of the years. So if we follow this logic, we're putting our colleagues in the future sort of into the lion's den, even if they every 4th year do the minimum that they would have gotten. And lastly, if I may, the chair's 25% stipend, in the same scenario right there. It's very admirable to those who say have deferred that or whatnot, but to take that tool out of the toolbox of any future chair who can then decide how they want to do it. There is general acknowledgement here that while this is deemed a part-time job, it turns out to be a lot more work than people might have anticipated coming into it, but the chairmanship clearly has a lot more responsibility and hours and time that have to be spent doing the job. So again, to take that tool out of a future legislative body, I don't think is in our best interest. Thank you.
So I'll just make one comment. Exactly what you were talking about was the reason that I thought, okay, we'll just do the COLA every year. That was my intention. It's like, and not politicize it. Nobody gets a raise. It's just the cost of living. If the cost of living, because technically, if the cost of living goes up and your gas goes up and everything goes up and you're still making the same thing, you're getting a decrease. So for me, I've always wanted just COLA. I think is fair for everybody, but that's even politicized. I mean, you just cannot get away from it. It's like, oh my gosh, it's a COLA. So this is slowing the roll here. I think every 4 years it kind of slows the roll. And you're right, it's going to be every 4 years. And believe it or not, if the legislature gets a raise every 10 years, like happened before, it's going to be politicized. So it's just a political football. I think this attempts to tamp it down. And I'll let Legislator Birmingham reply.
Yeah, just on a couple of points, and great points, Tommy, that you covered, and I understand them. One of the reasons and again, this was initiated and really got me thinking based on a memo we got a couple of months ago about the retention issue and the cap issue with the county executive salary. And at that point I said, well, okay, do we really want to be the branch of government that tells the other side of the, and again, that's not the only reason I'm doing it, because it's not a good reason to do it, but I think we should have some skin in the game as well, as far as making this a comprehensive type of thing. It doesn't affect the, the county clerk's salary, doesn't affect the sheriff's salary. It just affects, or the coroner's, it just simply affects the policy-making branches of the government. And we're really the ones, the DA isn't in charge of our budget, the coroners aren't, we're the ones, us and the county executive, who really put the budget together. And so my effort in doing this was to, as Amy just said, kind of slow roll any sort of increases, whether they're called COLAs or cost of living adjustments, which is an acronym for COLA, or anything else, to slow roll that. And as far as the chair getting an additional stipend, this doesn't prohibit the legislature at some future date, or next year even, from putting an additional stipend for the chair. It's just not requiring it. So if this legislature, if this passes the way it's written, it doesn't mean the chair of the legislature cannot accept a stipend, or the legislature cannot grant the chairman a stipend. It just doesn't require it. So a chair would have to make their own case to say, hey, guys, thanks for electing me as chair, but I'm doing a lot more work than I thought this would be. I need an additional stipend. And yes, that's a difficult, case to make, but man up, or
But if
Yeah.
I may, to the chair, isn't that the horse before the cart then? Because then if the chair, say next year, was willing to that, so the budget season, which we would allotted for that, would already pass. So that would be a year behind if it wasn't.
we always do fund transfers hundreds of times a year.
Oh, that's true. You've got a point there.
I mean, just a comment from me on that. I agree with you on the 25%. I'd rather have it in there and then have the next chair take it out if they don't want it. Because, so for example, next year there'll be, maybe there's a new chair. And
There definitely will be.
Chairman Birmingham is going to, and our minority councilors are going to work on that budget for the legislature, and they're going to either put it in or not put it in. Next year we're going to have a new.
We can change that too, by the way, after we put our budget forward. Like
We're going to have a new chair next year, supposedly, and they may or may not. They might have to take time away from their family, and they might have to go on, I don't know what. But it is a lot of work. It's nights and weekends and time away from your family and time away from events and weddings and things you can't go to. And, I wouldn't want to make that decision for the next chair. And the chair can, like Legislator Birmingham, not accept it. So we could put it in and then they won't accept it. Or, that's how I look at it. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Who's next? Legislator Crowley? Who hasn't spoken yet? Who hasn't spoken yet?
Jake hasn't, and I have.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Legislator Crowley. No, I'm sorry, Legislator Crowley. I have two legislators who haven't spoken yet.
Remember we talked about COLA?
Yeah, we have two legislators who haven't spoken yet. So I'm gonna go to Legislator D'Angelo and Legislator Montgomery.
Yeah, I'd
And then
like
Legislator
to,
Crowley, I'm sorry.
Legislator Birmingham, just shoot my signal of support up for this. The work we do is rooted in public service, and while being compensated something isn't horrible, to sacrifice our time and add more work to our plate on top of our already busy lives, we knew that going into this. We do this because we want to serve the public, because we want to make change, not because we want to get paid. And, we have a part-time position. It's technically part-time, though I'd say this is probably the busiest part-time job I've ever had. It still is certainly not a full-time job. And we are making more than full-time employees in our county government are making. The average, the median U.S. salary, I think, is $64,000 a year. We're right behind them, and this is a second job for most people. This is a part of this is the reason I decided to run for office in the first place. Is in the middle of a economic crisis, people drowning in taxes, grocery bills, gas prices, and every single year this legislature increased their pay 3%. And I don't think that's exactly necessary. I think if truly what you do is serve the public and you're about public service, I'd make sure everybody else's wallet looks good before I'd worry about my own. I think that's not virtue signaling. I think that's just the bare minimum of what a public servant should do. So that's just my opinion. I just wanted to say that I can't vote on this obviously tonight. I'm not a member of the Rules Committee, but I certainly support this and will support this at the full.
Thank you. Legislator Montgomery.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment of this new local law. And I don't know where I'm gonna go with it, quite honestly. In the next couple of weeks, few weeks before we have to vote on it, I have a lot of thoughts. You know, I didn't submit my standard workday sheet for the past 3 years, so it reflects on something that just isn't, I work a lot more than that. I have to. It's the nature of the minority leader of one. You know, I really commend you folks who have full-time jobs. I don't know how you do it. I have other part-time jobs that I do. I don't know how I would do a full-time job doing this because it requires so much of my time. So with that, I don't know where I'll stand on this. Also, there was a time where I advocated for removing the stipend for chair, but that was a time when there was absolutely no collaboration with the minority leader of one, and there was no coalition building. And we almost, I could say, or we do have a functioning legislature where there is bipartisan support for legislation and policies. And I credit that to our chair. And I think, you know, we've come a long way. So I've changed my opinion, quite honestly, about that stipend. You know, I see the amount of time in the coalition building and the calls that I get during the week, and the time spent here in the office and meeting with the county executive. So again, I appreciate the sentiment. I don't know where I'm going to go with this. I've often felt, just because of the level of the salary of the county executive and how it compares to our surrounding counties that are 3 times the size of ours, that the county executive is making a salary comparable to those counties that are 3 times the size of us. So, and I really dislike the fact that there's a law that says he has to be the highest paid person in the county, knowing the education behind some of our employees and the time they spent in mastering the work that they do and the services they provide for our shared constituents. So, you know, on one hand, I don't really love that my salary would be capped, the cost of living. I don't know about you, but for me, it's increased exponentially in the past 2 years. Rent, gas, heat, everything, food. It's kind of hard being on your own doing all that. So I'll say it again. I don't know where I'm going to stand on this. I do have to say that there was a time during budget seasons in the past where I fought to make sure that those who were making a lesser salary than us as part-time, you know, were brought up to that. I'm shocked and appalled to hear that there are 50 employees.
Almost, not quite.
Almost 50 employees that make less than we do. And this should not solve that problem. We should be solving that problem in a very different way.
Right.
And we should do it now, and we should do it this budget season. Thanks.
Okay. We've spent a lot of time speaking about our legislative salaries here. I think we're, yeah, I do too. I'll call on Legislator Crowley, and then I would like to hear from the DA, since he's the one who kind of started this conversation, and he's waiting patiently.
It's actually to do with his office. I think that, you know, his office has been severely hit by this. We have some people that have been there for a long time. They're capped on their salaries on everything. They are staying in Putnam. We're very lucky to have them, and they work day and night. They work cases that most of us couldn't fathom and stomach, and they deserve a lot. And they've been with us. They've been loyal, and they really do deserve more. We look at people that start off in corrections. Their salaries are very low, especially once their health insurance hits. It comes out to not very much more than probably the high 30s once they're done paying that out. And when you want to survive on that, it's really kind of pathetic. And we need to. I'm not going to comment on. I know what I do personally when it comes to the legislature and what I get paid and what I decide to do. I'm not going to make decisions for others here, but I am going to make a statement saying that we have some really great people that work here. The DA's office, in mental health, in sheriff's office, and realistically, they do a really hard job. There are a lot of laws that you find them. There's a lot of things that they put on the table and they risk every single day. And for what? You know, they could go somewhere else and they pay a whole lot more, and they stay with us. I think you're really just looking at, we had a whole bunch of retirees that came to us, and said, we look at what we're facing right now. We need to look at them too. We need to put that forward, we need to look at them, and we need to focus on that, and keep people that are willing to put time in Putnam and really give back to them. And I'm not gonna take away from any person on this legislature and tell them how they should do with their salary, or their stipend, or their insurance, or not taking their insurance or their stipend. That's up to them. But I do know that I sincerely think that we should look into people that work for us and stay with us for a long period of time, give us everything, and take away from their families and give them more. I think part of me support that, so that's where I stand.
Thank you. And I'll ask DA Tende if he wants to weigh in on the conversation regarding your employees. And sure, come up to the the chair, and make sure the light is on the.
Yes, I guess to a certain extent, this is my fault. I
Yes,
apologize.
this
Not
is
a
you.
fault, not a fault.
Very well. It's a great.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's on. I want to first start out piggybacking off of what Legislator Montgomery said. You guys are doing a very good job. This is the first time in quite a while where I'm looking at the legislature and I'm saying, you keep me informed, you call me, you contact me, you ask me questions, you're available. So yeah, I think the chair probably does have a lot to do with that. But I think also the legislators do also. So it's noticeable, and you're not the only one who notices it. A lot of people notice it. So you should be congratulated for it. With regards to the salary cap issue, as I'll refer to it as, it's kind of arbitrary. It doesn't make any sense to me. Somebody could run for county executive and be 35 years old and immediately be the highest paid person in the county when somebody else could have been here for 37 years and not be able to. You're only 39 years old, and I'm 57. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I can't make more than you. I work a lot. I may have a much higher education grade. I may have it's an arbitrary number. So it is a retention issue. If I lose one of my more experienced ADAs, I'm not going to get somebody to replace that person or those people, because I would have to say to somebody, you can't ever make more than this. And then they'd be, why? And they said, the answer is because. There's no real reason for it. As Legislator Crowley pointed out, not just our office, any DA's office anywhere, there are some very, very highly skilled people who go through years and years of training and working on cases that are absolutely horrific. And they actually get regular, I won't say counseling, but they need to be aware of their own mental state, because it's not easy to do these jobs. And they are compensated for it in most other jurisdictions, and they're compensated for it appropriately. In many jurisdictions, the highly skilled assistant district attorneys actually make more than the district attorney. I'm not saying that should happen here, but I'm just saying when you see the work they put in, and the skill set they have and the ability they have to comfort a 5-year-old who's been through hell on a regular basis, or other victims that have been through hell. I don't think it makes any sense. It's not just me, also, or my office. Let's say you have a really great skilled doctor who has years of education and mountains of ability based on his or her experience. I just think it makes no sense to say that's the law and that's the way it is. You don't like it, you can leave and go somewhere else. I know that's not the way the law is looked at, and that's nobody's attitude here, but for retention purposes, that's how these people look at it. So I appreciate you picking it up and talking about it. I would point out one thing which it didn't occur to me. If you don't change this aspect of the law that I'm talking about, and then you do cap the county executive salary raise at every 4 years, then you're really hurting the people, because now they're not looking at any potential raise for even for 4 years. So that's something you might want to consider also. Yeah. All right. And if you have any questions, I'll gladly answer them, but
Thank you.
I'm just glad you brought it up.
Anybody
Alright.
want to ask a question? Okay.
You need to do better.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so this is on for discussion tonight. We don't have it up for approval. We've had some really great information. I appreciate the DA putting in his 2 cents and starting this conversation. And thank you, Legislator Birmingham, for this.
Could I request that it be put on the next September
As a
as a action item?
action item,
Yeah,
yes,
because
absolutely.
We will be hitting budget time in October, so our last opportunity, generally speaking, to pass substantive legislation would be the October full meeting. However, we have been known to do other substantive issues during budget season, but
Yep.
at least just put it on for
Yeah, I would-
for action one way or the other, up or down, to
Yeah,
amend or whatever.
definitely.
It's a good starting point though
Yeah.
tonight, I think.
And I mean, for me personally, and as I did state tonight, I would be in favor of adding back in the 25% salary for the chair, and they can accept it or not. I wouldn't want to put that onerous on the next chair to say, I really need it. I mean, it's more difficult. It's easier to say no than it is to say, you know what, I really need it. So it's, anyway, we're gonna end this. Legislator Adenizio hasn't spoken yet.
I tried to do some research and I couldn't identify another county that has a specific charter provision as Putnam County does. Have you or anybody seen that in any other county?
I haven't seen it.
I haven't looked,
No,
but I haven't seen
I was looking
And I'm not sure even what the origin is of this. I don't know if
well, 1977.
1977. Maybe you were on there on 77.
No, I was still in law school at the time.
Oh, so you're
I,
playing third grade.
Well, it's interesting that we're the only ones that have that. We're
Yeah.
the county that I've been
Okay.
seeing.
We're going to move on.
I just wanted to know how this affects people if they're putting in their budgets this week and next week, and we're going
I
to
don't think
discuss
this is-
this. How does that work?
I think this is not going to affect until next year if
Okay.
this goes into effect.
wanted
That's which
to-
is why I didn't have it on for approval tonight, because it's not going to go into budget season until next year. So that's why it wasn't.
Perfect.
Right, yeah, it does state January 1st, 2027.
Yeah, it's just
Yep.
for discussion. Someone from
Oh,
the
you're
public
right.
like to
Sorry.
speak?
Sorry, it gets, the lights are off back there, it gets a little boring. Which microphone do I press down?
No, the big one should work.
Okay, thank you. I support this fully, taking the legislature salary and county executive and keeping all the employees all tangled in this nasty gross web together. So I do support trying to separate them, right? Because that's essentially, I think what you guys are proposing to do is keep it that and then also limit the legislative and county executive increases to every 4 years. Looking at other counties, this legislature is paid so much more. And it's not based on land base. It's not based on population. My legislature is 90,000 people. You look at Sullivan, you look at Rockland, you look at Ulster, you look at a lot of these other places, they have larger land bases, they're larger population bases, larger industrial bases. And I think the reason why it's gotten to 47,000 here is because it was tied to the county executive and to the staff of the county. So I think, again, it's gone through, the legislature can say no, but you guys had to approve raises for yourselves and the county executive. I think that's separate, but you had to approve raises for yourselves as a legislature in order to give raises to other staff. Is that correct? So what was the whole COLA thing a couple years ago, which was?
The COLA is just cost of living, and
That is a raise and increase, an increase, right? So if you guys didn't take that, then the other, certain officials, right? Like, I think it was the county clerk and a couple others, the DAs, was it DAs? Who was it? Who did that?
I don't know. We did just have a salary update for the entire county. It did include the legislature, and the legislature salary, according to the salary study, was well within reasonable and customary. Just to point that out, we had an outside contractor, so it's not insane. But I would. The purpose we're talking about this tonight is so we can just
It's just
slow it down.
not tied to other.
Correct.
Other staff, other officials, other everybody else, just because like it's, if you're talking for per 100,000 residents, let's say, right now Putnam County is 83% more paid more Putnam legislators than Dutchess. And that's just based on her residence, right? And that's not the only thing. So I'm not saying take away the salary from the legislature, but I think part of how it's gotten to here is you've had in the times past, if you didn't raise your own salary, certain other officials or employees of this county were also not getting a raise. Is that correct in what I'm saying? Legislature salaries right now are tied to nothing?
Yes.
Nothing.
Just the COLAs.
Just the COLAs that the other.
Just COLAs that the management, if,
It's not tied to that either.
it's not tied to anything. It's up to the chair of the legislature, each new chair to budget.
Separately was raising
Their own taxes, yeah.
throughout all time, and that's okay. So that is separate for me.
Can I just respond? I just want to respond. I think what you're referring to is several years ago, the county clerk and the coroners, right, they would cut out and we didn't allow it and we voted it for them to get their increase.
Yeah, but then
The
some
management
legislators
increase.
had to say, I don't want mine if they chose.
Right.
So it is tied in
Right.
essence to certain other.
But we had the authority to override and give them their raise. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, because you
The
could COLA
coroners-
across the board, and any
Yes.
legislator who wanted to forego their right to do that. So
Mhm.
it is tied to other people. Does this make it where it sounds like this is now just the
Not the-
legislature, just the county executive, this proposal is separate for every 4 years?
It wasn't tied.
Not the coroner and the county clerk? Okay, so I love it. Excellent.
Yeah.
That's all. That's my only point, was they know it was tied to other people. I know it's been political, whether it's the legislature, whether it's county executive, I don't really care. I care about how it comes out of the tax base. As long as it doesn't tie, to remove the tie to coroners, county clerk.
Yeah.
You can't let this enough, it's put it on the trade or raises and increases, for just other officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on for a discussion approval. This is for local law amending Chapter 55, Section 55-12 of the Putnam County Code, entitled Board of Ethics Establishment. So we're going to move on to agenda item number 5, since we went out of order.
Madam
Um,
Chair, could I move, since we're back on item 5, that we do have an
Yes, I'll
additional,
second
make a
that.
motion?
For additional, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let me just get my paperwork since we went out of order. Okay. Number 5, and now I don't have the additional in front of me. Where is it? Sorry, I just need to locate my additional here. I know I've got it here. Here it is, here it is. No? Yes, that's it, thank you. Okay, so we have a few proposals in front of us. Like always, we have several. It's good to get this discussion. It's great to have everybody's input. This was originally proposed by Legislator D'Angelo. It was passed at the full. Because of the noticing laws, it did not become law. So we have the opportunity to come back and discuss this once again. After we had voted on it at the full, or before we voted on it. Was it after or full? Oh, after we already voted on it at the full. I voted affirmative to pass this because I do think the Ethics Board needs to be updated. And I did put forward a couple of changes that I felt need to be added, including transparency in receiving resumes, where those resumes should be taken, how we go about the nomination period. And those are some things that I wanted to see on there. I also wanted to make sure that it was clear and that these are nominations, and the legislature has the final word in every single person that we appoint on the ethics board. And I did make a change to where if there is no minority chair, that final nomination goes to the legislature as a whole. So this is the changes that I proposed. We have a couple more here. We have legislator. D'Angelo. And was there another one? Just, okay, so we have the original as we passed. We had the one amended that I just described. And now we have another proposal by Legislator D'Angelo. So I'll give Legislator D'Angelo the floor.
Thank you. Well, before I begin, I would say that this originally was proposed, not what I'm proposing, but the premise of what I'm proposing and what we had voted on, I joined in voting yes on it at the full, was proposed by Legislator Regan. I liked it for the most part. I think it was perfect. I don't think anything's ever perfect, but I think what it definitely did was separate the ethics board nominations between the two branches of government and kind of gave an equitable share there, and I think effectively gave the perception and made it an independent board. I supported it knowing that there was maybe a change or two that could be made subsequently. But with that said, I also realized that we did have colleagues that disagreed a little bit with the process. And so I came up with an idea because I recognize how important it is to build consensus. And on a matter like ethics, it's important to not have a divided legislature and have one that's somewhat united in this. So I had an idea that may accomplish that, but also I actually think may speed the nomination process up, and I'll explain how. So what I'd like to do is have the Rules Committee nominate the 3 out of the 5 nominees for the Ethics Board. As we established in a previous proposal, that 2 would come from the county executive, and then 1 from the chair of the legislature, 1 from the minority leader, and 1 from the full legislature. And my understanding is, because of how we've always done it, is that once these nominations were made in the past, all 5 from the county executive, they all came to the Rules Committee to be forwarded then to the full of the legislature. So this doesn't really exactly change, I think, the power that the Rules Committee held in this process. All 5 nominations still begin right here before they're forwarded to the legislature. I know that some members of the legislature thought it to be a little political, the last proposal. I'm not sure I felt the same. But again, I think that something that we can all come together and agree on is really important. And it does, and again, it's not really a revolutionary idea. We already, the nominees kind of live and die in the Rules Committee anyways to begin with. And so I think this speeds up the process rather than the legislative, nominations having to then come back into rules. This actually might streamline it a little bit. And I think before we get into a wider deliberation on this, I know Legislator Laura Russo isn't here this evening, but she did review my proposal and she requested that I spoke on her behalf. Is that okay if I do that? Sure. Okay. Just before we deliberate, because it's on, before a potential amendment or whatnot, it was on how it was drafted. So she said, unfortunately, I am unable to attend tonight's Rules Committee meeting, but I want to make my position on the proposed changes to the Board of Ethics clear. I support the proposal as drafted by Legislator D'Angelo. I believe strongly in the importance of checks and balances in county government, and I believe the legislature should have a meaningful role in determining who serves on the Board of Ethics. I previously voiced concerns with earlier proposals because I believed that, taken as a whole, some of their provisions could be viewed as political in nature. Politics should have no place in the operation or composition of an ethics board. The latest proposal addresses those concerns. It removes partisanship from the equation and makes the changes strictly procedural. It largely follows the appointment process already in place while adding an important measure of balance by giving the legislature a voice in who is appointed to the Board of Ethics. I want to thank Legislator D'Angelo for listening to the concerns of his colleagues and working with us in good faith to reach a consensus. That is how the legislative process should work. I encourage my colleagues on the Rules Committee to advance this proposal without amendment, and I look forward to voting in favor of it at our next full legislative meeting.
Okay, so just looking at so we had the original as passed. We have the one I proposed, and we have Legislator D'Angelo's. So it looks like your proposal incorporated
some of my.
Yes, because
That's what I want to be clear on.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Chairwoman, if I could, on the point of order, just asking that you designate each one of these documents with a 5A, B, or C, so we know what we're referring to,
Okay.
instead of the
Sure.
names associated with them.
We'll do the A as passed as a whole, if that's the one, 5A as passed. And 5B was my additional, which was, with the red on the front. So that 5B. And then we'll put, those as 5C.
Thank you, Chairwoman.
That's all. Okay, so just back to our discussion, we had used 5B and they changed to 5B.
well,
So I had taken 5A and they changed to that.
right.
Take 5B. You've taken 5B and they changed that. to
Well,
5C.
I think
Kind of a-
I think I just kind of offered just an entirely different option. I mean, look, the main thing, and I said this at the full on the record. The main thing that I want to be clear on this, that I think needs to happen here is the creation of a functioning ethics board that is, has the check and balances of some coming from the executive branch and some coming from the legislative branch. I think that's a really good way to do it, to make it an independent board. I just noticed, and I know it passed similarly to what you put forward at the full, but I couldn't help but notice it just narrowly passed. And in my mind, I wanted to see if, is there a way we can, the concerns that I heard were a lot of the thought that it was political. I decided to remove essentially the entire section that made it political, which was, a member of the minority party makes a pick, and then the chair of the legislature, which I kind of view to be the majority leader, right, makes a pick. We leave all three nominations from the legislature to be decided by the three of you right now, essentially, in the rules committee or whenever this is in effect, if there's a different rules committee at that time, and so on and so forth in the future, just to remove the optics of politics from it. I mean, again, I supported the proposal that was passed last month. I voted yes on it. I gave quite a lengthy speech in my support of it. But again, I also think it's important to reach consensus. And on an issue like this, it'd be nice to see if some of the other legislators, some of my colleagues who found it to be political, if with these changes, they find it to be something they can palate. Because I think us all coming together and agreeing on something in unison is really important on an issue like ethics anyway.
Yeah, and thanks. This is a great workup on this, and it incorporates a lot of things that I think we're missing in the first one. One of them being that I don't think necessarily the chair has to have a nomination, but I think one of the attractions for me of the original proposal A was that there was some bipartisan aspect to it, in the sense that we had weigh-in from the minority party. And again, that can be any party. It used to be us for about 6-7 years, meaning Republicans. I think the hang-up that we had, some of us had, and I even had some second thoughts about it, although I did vote for the full legislative package last month, is that there was, and we had some public comment on this as well, that what was passed last month delegated to a non-elected party member in the event there was no minority member of this legislature. And we have also had that instance as well, not that long ago, where it was just one party rule and there was nine of us were of one party. And that safety valve, I think, tried to solve that, but that also raised some very valid concerns that we heard in public comment, that we're now taking a governmental role and delegating it to what was termed a party boss, who's unelected by any member of the public, in the sense, yes, they might be committee people, but they're not elected by county voters. They're elected by partisan county of one party. So I think I'd like to see us keep at least the ability for a minority leader of the legislature, an elected person of the legislature, one of 9, to at least have a seat at the table. I think that was, for me anyway, a selling point. I didn't view it as political. I viewed it as bipartisan. And certainly taking out the part, and I know Amy's Part B deals with that, where the nomination would come not from in the event there is no minority member coming from a party boss, if you will, unelected. I think Amy's solves that. But I'd really like to see us keep some bipartisan nature to this. It's not unusual. There are other ethics boards in the state that do have that component to it. None of them do have what we adopted last month was the unelected party boss. So I get that, and I'm happy to see that go in both B and C. But I think it's important that we keep at least a minority aspect to this. And again, I don't think the chair has to have. You're right that maybe they are the majority leader, but if you want to keep that, I know I won't be chair next year. So, and it's not something that I'm pushing for. I'm sorry.
He said allegedly.
Allegedly. No, not at all. Not at all. I'll put that.
Roped in.
No. If nominated, I will not run. If elected, I will not serve.
Anyone on the committee?
But one friendly amendment I think that both B and C would be I'd like to have this local law take effect February 1st, 2027.
Why would you?
So 2027. So that means that we would continue with the nomination process as written in the
Yes, we've gotten a lot of
for the rest of this
and
year.
the reason for that is
and then have it next year.
we've gotten a lot of discussion here lately about binding we're going to have 3 new members next year. And I remember Legislator in other discussions, several of my colleagues, including I think Legislator Goldman and Legislator Crowley, mentioned that we don't necessarily want to tie the hands of 3 new people coming in. So that's the effort for making it, in my mind anyway, February 1st, 2027. We're now towards the end of 2026. We're already in the second half of it. We got budget coming up in October, all of October. So that's my impetus behind February 1st, 2027. And I think it's a good thing to do.
Okay, anybody on the committee? Okay, I'll Legislator Crowley, and then
February wouldn't make sense to me, I'm just throwing this out there because, so in January, we have our reorg, and then the chairman is elected,
Mhm.
and there's no real meetings until February.
Right.
So it wouldn't make sense for February to happen if you're considering the new members, right? Because they're not on any committees yet to vote. So realistically, this could be brought forward for them to give their input. So I would push it till March so they can bring it up and let them give their input and talk about it and vote on it in March.
Realize, if I could respond to the
Please,
chair.
yeah.
I think you and I are talking about the same thing. You're right. No committee meetings generally other than audit, happen in January. But in January, we will hopefully have a chairman. And in January, there will be a minority member. And so that those 2 offices will be established if we go with B. So that those two officers could put forth their nominations along with the county executive in January so that the committees could start, whether it's the Rules Committee or the full legislature nominating a third. I think February 1st is quite operative and needed because that'll get the process started sooner. If we wait till March, why would we want to do that? We already know who the chairman is. We already know who the minority member is.
To respond, sorry, because I haven't.
Well, I thought I did, but go right ahead.
I have also a response.
Responded through the chair back.
But I guess I'm done with my response. Go right ahead.
So I think that also the 3 new members should be able to weigh in on whether they agree with what we brought forth or not. If they want to amend it, if they're going to nominate people, they may have amendments to it as well. So I think if you're going to implement this in 2027, you have to also realize that they may want to change it. And they may not want to just go with whatever whatever the local law that we've decided to go with this year. With, again, 1/3 of our legislature that is coming in next year. Give them time to deliberate and decide if that's what they want to do. If you want to put this in 2027, that's not fair. Just to nominate and also, as far as the 3 that are before us, the one that we adopted ridiculously and hastily, the second one, I still find to be political because we're going minority majority. I don't understand it. And C, I can get behind, but I would like to take out one part, which I think that unless the people are chosen, which I think is section 2, unless the people are chosen, I don't think anybody who's not being considered for the role or put before us, their resume should be put in backup because it's embarrassing. they're not being chosen, it should be named backup. I just don't think it's appropriate, and I don't really think it's necessary. So that would be my one change to Legislator D'Angelo's resolution, but I can get behind everything else in this without a problem. And I would like to see it take effect in 2027, and let the new legislators also weigh in on it.
So just to be clear, I mean, I would be in favor of February 2027 because there's also the noticing process. You know, we're not going to have, you know, we can notice a new ethics board in February and give them 30 days to submit their resumes, and then it won't be even discussed until all resumes, the resume period is over. Consider if we do adopt B or C, because they talk about the process. So I think February is reasonable. You have to vote on every new legislator is going to come into this legislature, and they're going to have to vote on new stuff, and they're going to have to place their vote no matter when they're elected. Legislator D'Angelo.
Yeah, Legislator Birmingham, I understand the notion, but my greater issue with that is we'd be depriving the people of Putnam County an ethics board for another 5 months, and I mean there'd be nothing stopping the 3 new legislators from making amendments or changing things if they'd like. Again, I think we have to get down to the reality of we want a functioning ethics board. That was why a lot of us voted on something we kind of knew we wanted to change, but just to get it going and get it started last month. I mean, the only reason we're back here is because of, procedural deficiency. It's not because we wanted to really change anything. I know I kind of threw a little bit of a monkey wrench into this, but it was just an idea, and it was just a thought, and it was just a way to try and get our colleagues who disagreed with the first piece of legislation to agree. And I mean, I read the statement from Legislator Russo. It sounds like Legislator Crowley's pretty on board with this. If it's something that the rest of the members of this legislature voted in favor of last month, and can they could palate this. I'll quote you, Dan. Let's not make perfect the enemy of the good. And I also think this is going to streamline the process. I mean, whoever's making these nominations, regardless, it goes to the Rules Committee. They have to vote the 5 through. Then it comes to the full legislature. This way, you're getting your 2 from the county executive. The 3 are decided here. If you want a level of bipartisanship, which I do agree that we should have, which is why I voted to approve it last month. But if we want to have that, I also think that the members of this Rules Committee could act in good faith and make sure they're, having an open discussion relative to the appointments. Because, I mean, you'll be making the appointments, but it'll be on the behalf of the entire legislature. And so the same way we're here at a Rules Committee deliberating in public about it all, we could do the same with the nominees and make sure the minority member, Legislator Montgomery's voice is heard and everyone's voice is heard. There's nothing also just stopping us from acting in good faith either. But more specifically, whatever passes here tonight, and I do hope it's mine, because it sounds like we're reaching a consensus with that. Whatever is passed, I really do hope we don't wait until next year, because then we'd be depriving the people of Putnam County for 5 more months, a board that reviews matters of ethics to their elected officials and government employees that their tax dollars pay for. I mean, the public needs to have this board. This board's not about us. We should never want to go in front of this board. If we went in front of this board, that's not always such a great situation. This board is for the people of Putnam County to have faith that, their government's operating in good faith. So I just think, more importantly than anything else, this has to be created, and the process has to begin.
Legislator Birmingham.
Yeah, I could. I don't think you and I are that far apart either, Jake. There's nothing to stop right now the county executive from sending us down 3 more nominations under the current Board of Ethics. And, maybe March 1st might be a good time to do this, because that way, this board could operate for 8 months, the 5 we have left in this year, and then actually 6-7 months in the 2 January and February of 2027. But I do think it's important that, again, I'm going to go back to the bipartisanship. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's a feature, not a bug. I did see a bug being the hang up, and I don't mean to say hang up to be diminutive about it. The real concern about a non-elected party boss having a say in this. I get that, and I think 5B does that, takes care of that. But again, if we need to, I mean, if we make this, even if we pass B with a start date of March 1st, 2027, I'd be fine with that as well. So that way we could have what everybody wants. We could have a working, operating 2026 ethics board for not only the 5 remaining months of this year, but also the first 2 of next year. And then in March of 2027, a new board take over. So I think that's the best of both, in my perspective, that's the best of both worlds.
So, yeah, I just want to respond about the Rules Committee. I understand where you're going with that, and I get it. And with that, using that logic, you know that every single nomination that comes through the Rules Committee is voted on by the entire legislature. So the legislature, as I always say, has a final pick. I think going to the Rules Committee, say there's 10 applications. Are we supposed to deliberate on 10 people and pick 5 of them, and then 5 of them aren't going to get picked? I mean, I'm just trying to understand, when we have a nomination, say, for example, from the county executive sends down their pick, and we either vote up or down. We're not deliberating on the 12 he's already picked through. So I think that's complicated in a public meeting. We'd probably have to deliberate behind closed doors. I don't know how that would be a public meeting at that point. I do want to get to Legislator Montgomery. If you want to answer that, then I'll get to Legislator Montgomery. She hasn't spoken yet.
And it's just a quick, through the chair, just a response, and it's that if we currently really don't have a functioning ethics board, where I think we now have 2 members on it, right? And we didn't approve 3 that the county executive did send down because we thought it would be unfair to approve them and then change the structure, and now they're out of their position that they got brought up to speed, they're ready to go, and now it's kind of ripped out from under their feet. And while I thought we anticipated that to maybe happening within 60 days of their appointment, 5 months is still not a ton of time. It is a little bit longer, but it's still only just 5 months. I mean, who's going to want to sign up to be on something for 5 months and then not know? I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm speculating, but I just I know that was our logic in the beginning, and this is still kind of a short timetable. It's not, it's only 5 months, but that's just kind of my observation. That was just a point I wanted to make.
Legislator Montgomery.
Thank you. There's so many things to follow up on here, and it's just like it's like a pinball machine. But I do like to respond to Legislator D'Angelo's comment about the reason why we didn't approve those 3 is because we were changing the structure. Is not altogether why I didn't approve them. I didn't approve them because by law we couldn't approve one of them. So there's that. To respond to hopefully in order, A is passed. We passed A. It's wasn't submitted though, so we don't have a public hearing. Then to B, I agree with the red lines here with the whereas clauses. Board of Ethics should be made through fair, open approvals, and even the larger paragraph shall publicly solicit. I agree with the nominations for appointment. Maybe a little bit disappointed that another opportunity for bipartisan and equal opportunities is taken out, but seat 5 shall instead be nominated by the full legislature is okay. The proposed Legislator D'Angelo's C. There are pieces of Legislator D'Angelo's proposal that I actually think improve the legislation of A and B. I'm trying to be really clear here. I strongly support the public solicitation and the creation of one common pool of applicants from which all nominations must be made. That makes the process more open and transparent. Where I have a very significant concern is giving 3 of the 5 nominations to the Rules Committee and eliminating the designated role for the legislative minority. We should not solve the concentration of power in the executive by concentrating it somewhere else. And that's what we're doing in C. We absolutely should preserve a meaningful voice for the legislative minority. And this is where Legislator D'Angelo's proposal has a weakness. If our objective is as an ethics board that is independent of any one person, branch, or political majority, I don't think we should take appointment authority away from one place and concentrate it in another, because we can all see how possibly this may play out next year. We saw it just recently in this month's committee meetings where a legislator sitting on the Health Committee approved the concept of a resolution, and for political reasons, it was quite obvious then in Audit voted it down. So that's going to play out over and over again when we have 3 members of the Rules Committee, and I lived this for 7 years. So the Rules Committee has 3 members, giving that committee 3 of the 5 ethics nominations. Ethics board nominations means that 2 members of one committee could effectively determine the nominees for a majority of the ethics board. Those nominees still require confirmation from the legislature, but the power to choose who gets before us will be concentrated on that committee. So, and I also really think the minority representation is important on an ethics board. Ethics oversight is supposed to protect the institution and the public, regardless of who happens to hold the majority at any particular moment. A minority appointment isn't a partisan privilege, it's a structural safeguard. Majorities change, the protection should exist regardless of which party is in the majority and which party is in the minority. All 5 appointing authorities, as it's structured, I think in C, which I like, must select their nominees from the same solicited pool. Actually, this is in the original. It's in B. Yes. So the county executive, 2 seats, legislative chair 1, full legislature 1, minority 1. All 5 nominees require confirmation by the full legislature. That makes sense. It gives you virtually everything everybody says you're trying to do here on this legislature. It prevents the county executive from privately selecting the entire board. It prevents the legislative majority from controlling the entire board. It gives the minority a real voice. It gives the public an opportunity to apply, and every nominee is ultimately subject to confirmation by the entire legislature. I think that's a really good structure. And I like Legislator D'Angelo's proposal that has something better that the other 2 don't, that everyone must come through the same. Actually, that was in
B.
It's in B.
Okay. What I really like about is the removal clause in Legislator D'Angelo's. So it's his proposal allows for the removal only for cause after written notice and an opportunity to respond, and requires 2/3 of a vote of the entire legislature. So if independence is really the goal, then no one should control the board, not the county executive, not the legislative chair, not the majority, not the minority, and not the Rules Committee. I see what's happening here. Distributing the nominations across the board is a feature. It's not a flaw. I think the cleanest way to do this now would be to, since we have something that we went through the process of approving by the full legislature, I think the cleanest way to do it would be to amend A with the great things we have from B and C. And that's really easy to do. So, and I've written it out. If anybody wants a copy of it now or wants me to read it, I have so many versions of this. I can offer a suggestion that members of the Rules Committee make amendments. For example, even in the title of the local law, blah, 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 qualification of members, appointment of members, term of office, and you should add, and removal of Board of Ethics members. And then if somebody wants to make that.
That's on C.
That's on
That's on C.
Sorry.
Yeah, we do have
Okay,
removal of
I'm
board.
reading the wrong red line. Sorry.
I think that is included.
I think-
I'd like to make a,
I read the wrong red line. Sorry. So
could
if
I,
you want me to suggest amendments,
well,
I
I
can.
was going to make a motion to amend B, including removal of Board of Ethics members, which is in C, putting that in B, and then also in B, making this law, local law shall take effect I was going to say March 1st, 2027, but if we want to give a runway longer to have an acting ethics board to make it take effective April 1st, 2027, that does a couple of things. It gives us an acting, operating, and functioning ethics board for the remainder not only of calendar 2026, but also for the first quarter of 2027. It also incorporates in B, we're taking out the party boss clause, and it also includes the removal clause that Jake has suggested in C. I think, a compromise is where not everybody's happy, but I think this takes the best parts of all of them. And
Can I ask a
and
question?
I'll just make that, if I could make the motion to see if there's a second on that.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you.
Can I just keep the floor for a second? Because it's a question.
on the table.
Yep.
There's a motion on the table for
And she spoke,
Okay.
speaking to the motion, yeah.
Legally, can we just throw A out? Can we throw A out? And,
We're amending it.
Well,
okay, I'm just
A
trying
was
to
never
figure out
actually
what
adopted.
is
Yes.
the cleanest one to amend.
if I could, and
I think A.
if I
is the
could through the
cleanest one
chair,
amend
to the,
because we adopted it, but
to the chair, if I could, to the Legislative Council, to the chair, it's my understanding that B is A with Amy's revisions. Is that correct? So A is non-functioning now, as you pointed out, because yes, we did pass it, but it didn't get the proper notice for local laws. So what B, yeah, that's what I'm doing, amending B, right, right.
that was my question.
like to
Thank you.
B is amendments, right. So now what we have on the table is 5B with the amendments as proposed by Legislator D'Angelo's version. I'll call on Legislator Regan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. If we wanted to bolster some of my colleagues' theory that we shouldn't get a raise for 4 years, I think this is a great example tonight. Our inability to make progress is on full display. I do have to correct my colleague over there who several times said concentration of appointments. Words matter here. It's not appointments. It is nominations.
Thank you.
And that's a contention that keeps coming up in this, regardless of who gets it. So I think it's important to we say that we're clear on that it's nominations, not appointments. And true question to the chair is that all of these variations that we're talking about or amendments we're talking about tonight, we're only on for discussion. So is it?
No, we have it on for approval.
Discussion approval.
Yeah, so it is for, it can be, we're discussing it. We have a motion on the floor
All
now.
right, I'm hearing a chairwoman to my left and a chairwoman to my right. So
Well,
where
listen
should
to
I
the
get the
chair
answer?
up here, and
To the chair
it
that way?
is on
Okay.
for approval, if you read yes, it is on for approval.
Okay, and then lastly, thank you for recognition. I want to restate publicly my objections to last-minute variations, red lines, blue lines, paragraphs that are sent to us just previous to a meeting, does not give any of us significant time to read, to find out any variances, to find out words that maybe are misplaced and whatnot. Now, I'm not on the committee, but you've all been given a red line and blue line document here somewhere in the area of 2 hours previous to this meeting. I hope you had the time to all take it
This
in.
morning.
It was this morning? Okay,
This
but
morning.
this continues to be an issue. It will hold no water in this discussion, but I want to publicly state my objection to it. Thank you.
Okay, so what we have before us is, we have 5B, which we did discuss after it was passed. So this is the same copy that you've had. And then we made a couple of amendments based on Legislator D'Angelo's. So you have had the opportunity to read 5B for more than a month. And yes, we did just get this one today. So, and there's, and any discussion that we're going to have has good ideas and things that we want to strict. And that's the purpose of a legislative committee meeting, is to get it all out and discuss it. Maybe there's a better idea. So, Legislator D'Angelo.
I wanted to speak to the amendment. I think, look, I think pushing the effective date out is undermining the entire reason that we're even talking about this in the first place. The entire concept was we recognized, due to the vacancies, an opportunity to make sure that both branches of government can have a say in who's on the ethics board. I mean, we literally halted. We thought that to be so important that, I mean, obviously we didn't know that this procedurally wasn't going to go through, but we thought it to be so important that we stopped the nominations dead in their tracks and worked hard to get something passed as quick as possible, which, by the way, would be passed with an immediate effective date had it been, procedurally done right. And we did this because we thought it to be such an important thing that the legislature has to say immediately, not just next year, but like right away. It was so important that this legislature had a say in who was going on the ethics board. That's a real 180, quite honestly, that I just can't get behind. I mean, I personally feel that it is still, to this very moment, one of the most important things is that the ethics board is established immediately, as soon as possible, with both branches of government, both the executive and legislative branch of government, weighing in on the nomination process. I mean, I think that was pretty much the sole reason that birthed this entire proposal to begin with, whichever one we go with. So, I mean, look, I'm not vehemently opposed to B. I could live with it. I mean, it's so similar to the one I voted on last month, and actually maybe even a little better than the one I voted on last month. But I thought, because of the one, I mean, it's all great legislation. I had a light bulb on moment this morning when I thought of this, just for the sole purpose of, hey, maybe we reach a consensus and get 9 people to vote on this. I mean, that'd be a really great sign, but nothing would prevent me. I don't think either which proposal moves forward, other than the simple fact that I do not believe that this can wait until next year to be in effect. If there's going to be an ethics board, it has to be weighed in on by both branches of government. It cannot wait until next year.
Thank you, Legislator D'Angelo. Legislator Goldman.
If we have an ethics board now, we passed it last month.
No.
So this is just.
It has to get rescinded.
Number B. The members of the Board of Ethics shall reside in Putnam County, and no member of the board may be appointed officer or employee of the county. Let's think through this smartly. We had a member of the Ethics Board who was the Director of Personnel for many, many, many years. Probably the most smartest man in the room when it came to personnel and everything in the state. So we might change that. We do make decisions on who goes on. So if someone is an employee, we don't like him, we don't put him in it. But we're throwing someone away who, if we had this in place 10 years ago, that individual would not have been in that seat, which I think is a shame. Also, number E, instead of a 2-year term, it should be a 3-year term, so it could be scattered. The reality now is it's not going to be scattered anyway because we don't have anyone on the ethics board, so 2-year term. But moving forward, a 3-year term might scatter the situation.
Thank you, Legislator Goldman.
Still talking about the amendment?
Anyone else? Well, did I say Goodman?
What?
Oh, I
He
thought you
said
said
letters and
We were
numbers and
talking about the
admin,
amendment.
and
Oh,
we're
I
all
was
over
talking
the
about the
place right
amendment.
now.
I
We're supposed to be
misheard.
talking about the amendment
Thank you,
anyway.
Legislator Goldman.
We are talking about the amendments, correct?
Yeah. I'll
Amendment.
public.
Sorry.
Okay.
On the
Oh,
amendment,
crap.
please.
It's hard not to because it's kind of sleepy back there because nobody's here.
Welcome.
Does it? I don't know. Okay, thank you. I could not agree more with Legislator D'Angelo, and I think Regan of you guys need to do this now. I've said it before when I've come here. There is no functioning ethics board. There's nowhere for people to say, hey, I have an ethical complaint. I get to shout in the wind, which, is really exhausting. What I will say, though, is even if, to your point, if you're saying, okay, well, the county executive could send nominations now, could have done that for a long time. So I don't think waiting till March or April and going, oh, they'll do it now. They haven't done it before because it was December when the nominations were published to be solicited for people to send in their applications, their submissions, their resumes and whatnot. And then in April is when the meetings were held, and then they were sent to you. So you start talking about in April, May. So that's from just alone December to April to then May. So if you don't put something in place now, you don't even have to put the March provision in, the April provision in, because that'll probably happen anyways. I get it. No one's ever going to be happy. I'm not even going to weigh in on the structure, the composition. Pick whatever one you want at this point. But something where you could actually say, like right now, if it is the county executive that makes the nominations to this legislature, you can't compel him to give you nominations. You can't compel the commissioner of finance to give us documents. So realistically, just get an ethics board. I don't care what way you guys do it. I'm not going to wait on that. You guys are doing that plenty for everybody, and I appreciate that. Please do not put this off till March, April, because even if you don't put that in and you leave it the way it is, it'll probably be March, April.
Thank you. Okay, so I mean, as chair, I can rethink the date, and I think you're right about the date. Let's get it voted in now as opposed to
I just
March.
have
Call the
one.
question. Yes.
I just have one more thing to say on the amendment. If it might.
Well,
affect-
I'm going to call the question. We're going to vote on it.
Well,
We're going to vote on it amended.
No, you have to vote
amended?
on. We were talking about the motion. Now you have to approve the amendment. Now.
Yeah, yeah, you have to get.
And then
Right.
it gets voted down.
Correct. So we're going to vote on the it was on the amendment
5B.
of the amendment of 5B as
With-
stated by Legislator Birmingham. So roll call vote, please.
Yes.
Okay.
No. Okay, so it passes with the amendment. With the date of March. April. Okay, so that's what we're talking about now. We have 5B with the amendments, with the date of April, and the removal of,
We also have 5C on the
Yeah.
table,
Yeah.
unamended.
Hasn't been moved.
Legislator
Oh.
Montgomery.
B is still on the table?
It is
All
still
of
on the
them
table.
have
Okay.
been moved.
Well, I'd like to suggest that
The amendments on 5B did not pass,
No.
but we still,
No, they did.
What I believe is on the, I'll defer to council.
Yeah.
What I believe is on the table is an amended 5B.
Okay. If I may, I think I
Oh,
had.
my understanding
oh,
is.
yes, you're correct. Yes, you're right. You're right.
What's that?
That's right.
I'm
The
sorry.
amended 5B, correct.
Yeah, it was amended 5B, but you still had all of the options on the table. You didn't move
Only
any,
one
you
was
didn't
moved,
select.
though.
Only one was moved for amendment,
Right. I'll now move B as amended.
Okay, so you're moving B as amended.
Yes.
but the other options are still on the
I'll still need
table
a-
because
I'll need a-
none have
I'll
been
still-
moved
Okay,
yet.
I'll need
so
a second
we
vote
have
for that
B on the
amendment.
table
Are you going to second that?
as amended.
I moved it.
She said no to it.
I'm
Well,
not gonna-
well, what we voted on an amendment. Now we have B as amended on the table. I'd like to move B as amended.
We also still have C on the
And
table.
C
C
and
is still
A,
on the
yes.
table too, so that's the question. The question is whether they're gonna,
Okay.
Yeah.
Move all
Motion
three.
to table.
Did you just?
I mean, the only way I'll just to discuss, I will move 5B as a discussion item. I will second that.
Okay, so now B is on the table as
To
amended,
discuss.
to discuss.
To discuss. So now we can discuss
Right.
Legislator Montgomery.
Sure. I like everything in 5B. Sorry, I kept my arm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 whereas clause. After the 5 whereas clause, I'd like the committee to amend 5B to read, whereas the legislature further finds that the independence of the Board of Ethics is strengthened when all nominations are made from a common publicly solicited pool of qualified candidates, and nomination authority is distributed so that no single branch, committee, or political majority controls a majority of the nominations. And also, whereas the legislature further finds that the integrity and independence of the Board of Ethics requires a clear process for removal of a member for cause. I think that was already in there. Written notice, an opportunity to respond, and approval by a supermajority of the legislature. put that all there after that fifth whereas?
So
If-
we did vote in the removal process. That is in 5B now. Because
Okay.
we've taken 55-14, removal of ethics board from 5C, and we've moved that into 5B. So we do have the removal clause in 5B. That was just amended. So what we amended on 5B was the date of April 2027, and we added the removal of the Board of Ethics members. So those are the two changes, and that's what 5B is on the table, with the date and the removal clause.
Okay, so the removal clause is in there. So then the amendment I'm suggesting is just simply that first whereas that I said, whereas the legislature further finds that independence of the Board of Ethics is strengthened when all nominations are made from a common publicly solicited pool, qualified candidates and nomination authority is distributed so that no single branch, committee, or political majority controls a majority of the nominations.
See, I think that's mathematically impossible because we have 5 positions and one branch is going to have, whether it's us or the other side of the hall, will have a majority, whether it's 3 and 2. I just think mathematically we can't say one branch won't have majority control over the majority of the nominations.
Let's not give it more by be giving the authority to the Rules Committee, I guess.
Okay, yeah, okay, that would work,
Okay,
but it's just mathematically one branch would have to have a
Right.
majority. It's 3 out of
Okay,
5.
understood.
And at that point, I think the reason I put this forward is because I don't want to ask somebody on their resume, what's your party? I don't want to know what political party anybody applying for the ethics board is.
Let's be
And
realistic.
I think that's
We're gonna
fair.
look it up.
I wouldn't have a problem. I think people are ethical no matter what's behind their name or whether they vote or not. So the makeup of the board is not important to me. The people choosing it is important. I think it's more fair and balanced if it's chosen from a wider pool. Legislator D'Angelo.
Yeah, it sounds like 5B is likely the direction we're going. And so just to discuss 5B, I would encourage the Rules Committee to amend the amendment and remove the effective date and make it effective immediately. If what we truly care about is having a functioning ethics board as soon as humanly possible and have it be equally separated between the two branches of government, that directly undermines it. And I'll also say this, if we really, really want to have this passed, we need to count to 5. And I would just remind you all how we did that. And I will openly say that that's a deal breaker for me. Waiting until next year is a deal breaker for me. And I supported this last month, but that's a deal breaker for me. And I won't vote for it.
I am on, I've been convinced, I have an open mind and I can listen to discussion, and I think that's a valid point, and I will make that amendment to 5B as amended. I will make an amendment to remove the date of April and make it effective immediately. Do I have a second?
You made that motion?
I just made the motion
I'll
to.
second it.
I'll second that.
All right, 2 seconds.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. So now we've removed the date. We have the removal process, and we will discuss the new. I'm just going to make a motion to. I'm going to make a motion for 5B as amended.
I'll second that, which includes the immediate, includes the removal, includes getting rid of the party boss, and includes what's in 5B as presented. Yep.
So we're
Second that.
discussing that right now. I don't know.
You've moved it and I'll second it. Yep.
Okay. So we'll discuss that. If anybody has any questions or comments, we've Legislator Montgomery.
Good work.
This is what, it's not easy, but the democratic process is difficult work, and that's what we're here for. All right, so I will, if there's no further comment on this, I will, including the public, I'll call for a roll call vote for the, as amended.
Yes.
Yes.
Congratulations. Good job.
So, now we are moving on to agenda item 7, which is an FYI. It's our county contracts. Again, I'd like to thank Legislator Birmingham for bringing this up to the Rules Committee, where we can look at all of the contracts that were made within the past month. Any questions or comments on this from the legislature? From the public? Oh, Legislator Regan?
As a point of order, do we not vote on 5C? I understood we voted on 5B right there, but 5C was still.
Was never moved.
Nobody moved
It was not
Yeah,
moved.
Nobody did anything with it, so it just laid on the
Any
table.
chance you
Nobody
could
moved.
just let the chairwoman run this
Oh,
meeting?
sure.
Just please,
Legislator, you
please.
any chance you can stop yelling?
But one meeting is up here. So it was not moved.
Was the opportunity given for it to be moved? I didn't hear that.
I didn't move it, and nor did anyone on the committee.
Okay, intentionally, then I understand it's dead in the water. Okay.
Correct. So then we
That
moved on.
opportunity was
That's
given
an
for it
awful
to be
term.
moved. All right.
Yeah, it was not moved, and it was amended and it was incorporated, but it was not moved. Okay. Public comment on the contract, 7A. Excuse me, gosh, just 7.
This is the last thing. I promise I don't have anything on the litigation report because I can't see it. I do have a question on the. I want to make sure I can reference it correctly. It's the Fairfield Drive Culvert Closeout 2226090. That was 7500 PKF O'Connor Davies, Department of Public Works Admin. I have a question. I don't know if you guys know, and DPW's not here. My question is because that is Fairfield Drive in Putt Lake. That was a DOT contract that was awarded back in 2017. The work had to be completed by 2022. It was completed before in 2021, so like great, Putt Lake, amazing. Is it standard that I assume that's an auditing like recap, which totally in support of? My question is, why is something that was completed in 2021 being audited now?
This would I'd have to maybe ask the Commissioner of Finance to answer that, but
Yeah,
Legislator Birmingham, do you have any?
I don't have
thoughts?
a specific answer to that, but PKF O'Connor Davies does more than just audit the county. They also provide financial services to us beyond auditing. And I don't know that this.
So we don't know what it, because that's the thing, I was like, it'd have to be
Yeah,
something financial, and
it's-
because that's related to a DOT contract, whether it's audit, whatever we call it, whether it's a special audit, whatever, right? It's a financial component to close out a DOT contract that ended 4 years ago.
Well, I'm not sure that that's quite unusual. It says closeout, and sometimes, especially with the capital plan, those funds need to be accounted for post-project, and whether it's I don't have an answer, but I've seen closeouts happen well after a project is completed.
Okay, that was just
So,
the question of, because
yeah.
it seemed, I know usually it does a year, maybe 2 years, but like when it gets to 4, it seemed a little off to me.
I can write a letter to our Commissioner of Finance and our Commissioner of DPW and ask them for a clarification of that and forward it to the legislature and of course you.
Perfect,
like.
thank you. That's the only question I had. It just seemed like outside of the normal
Yeah.
timeframe, so that was it. Thank you.
Make a note of that with the clerk to send a letter out to clarify that. Thank you. Any other questions on agenda item 7? Okay, moving on to agenda item 8. This is our litigation report. Please review it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to contact the law department, or I'd be happy to contact them on your behalf. That is confidential. 9 is other business. I think we've had plenty of business tonight. I don't think we have any in front of us. Agenda item 10 is, I'll make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening and welcome to the August 11th special meeting of the Putnam County Legislature. I'd ask everybody please stand for the pledge. Jake, would you lead us?
Absolutely. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tommy, would you lead us in our legislative prayer?
Will do. Thank you, Chairman. Please bless our decisions. We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. Amen.
Amen. I'd ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
District 1, Legislator Montgomery. District 2, Legislator Goulman. District 3, Legislator Adnesio. District 4, Legislator Russo. District 5, Legislator D'Angelo.
Present.
District 6, Legislator Regan.
Present.
District 8, Legislator Sage.
Present.
District 9, Legislator Crowley. District 7, Chairman Birmingham.
Here. We have a 3-item agenda tonight. 4, 4, and 5 go together, but of course we'll entertain them separately. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss potential contract matters. Is there a second?
Second.
I'd like, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I'd like to invite our clerk. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You weren't with us last time. I'd like to invite our counsel and our auditor to our executive session. We're going to meet in the ready? I'll make a motion to come out of executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No decisions were made in executive session. I'd like to move item number 4, approval. Award of RFP number 02-2026, Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation District Special Funds Audit, or Funds Special Audit. Whereas the County of Putnam issued a request for proposals number 02-2026 entitled Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation District Funds Special Audit for the procurement of professional accounting services to conduct a special audit authorized by Resolution number 85 of 2026. And whereas the proposals received and evaluated in accordance with the requirements of the request for proposals and the county's procurement policy. Whereas the evaluation committee has recommended the award to CBIZ Inc., CBIZ, Inc. And whereas the county legislature finds such proposal to be in the best interest of the county, now therefore be it resolved that RFP number 02-2026, the county has conducted the required cost-benefit analysis to determine the relative best value offered to the county by a responsible offerer, and be it resolved that the Putnam County Legislature, on the basis hereby, awards RFP number 02-2026, Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation District Special Funds Special Audit to CBIZ Inc. in the amount of $28,250, subject to execution of a contract approved as to form by the county attorney and approved by all other officials as required by law, and be it resolved that this award is expressly contingent upon confirmation from the Commissioner of the Department of General Services that all necessary RFP award steps have been completed and the adoption and effectiveness of the accompanying budgetary resolution appropriating funds for this contract, and no contract shall be executed nor any work commence unless and until said budgetary resolution has been adopted and a purchase order is issued. And therefore be it further resolved that subject to this contingency, this resolution shall take effect immediately. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion among my colleagues? Seeing none, I would just note, and I cleared this with council, this is a legislative resolution which is pertinent to the county legislature's own purview. So when we adopt it, it becomes effective immediately. It's not subject, according to our county charter, to the approval of the county executive. Seeing no other comment, I'll ask for a roll call vote.
Legislator Adnizio? Yes. Legislator Crowley? Legislator D'Angelo?
Yes.
Legislator Goulman? Legislator Montgomery?
Yes.
Legislator Regan?
Yes.
Legislator Russo? Legislator Sage?
Yes.
Chairman Birmingham?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I'll next move item number 5, approval, budgetary amendment, transfer number T. You've got that number, Michelle? T26T188. To fund RFP number 02-2026, Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation District Funds Special Audit. Whereas by resolution number, whatever this resolution was we just passed, adopted on August 11th, 2026, the Putnam County Legislature awarded RFP number 02-2026 entitled Putnam County Soil and Water Conservation District Funds Special Audit. And whereas sufficient appropriated funds are not presently available within the account designated for professional services contract, and whereas the legislature desires to fund this expenditure solely through an appropriation from the legislature's own budget and not from any other county department, now therefore be it resolved that the 2026 county budget is hereby amended as follows. Legislature, decrease line number, Michelle?
It's 1010-1001-510000 in parentheses 11N.
As in Nancy?
Yes.
And the amount will be in?
$28,250.
Okay, and we're going to increase legislature line number?
Okay, it's 10132000054111, and that's independent audit line.
Okay.
Under my budget.
Okay, and that's for the same amount, $28,250.
Correct.
Okay, is there a second to that resolution? A motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
On a question, yes, Chairman, because the auditor was not on microphone, I'm going to ask that you please read out the numerics that she transmitted to you, because it won't be on record.
Not a problem.
Thank you.
And Michelle, you'll correct me if I got it wrong. Okay, the first decrease is Legislature, line number 1010, 1001, 51000, paren 11N as in Nancy, for 28,250. And we're increasing Legislature line. Should that be auditor line? Auditor line. Auditor line. 1013 2000 54111. And for the same amount, 28,250. And it was seconded by Legislator D'Angelo, I believe.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion?
Question.
Of course.
Thank you. Did we state what the decrease line was? I know we have the number.
Yes, at 28.
No, I know,
Oh.
but what is it?
Oh, what are we where are we taking it from, essentially?
From the Legislative Council.
Legislative Council, Majority Council. Majority Council. Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Legislator Adenizio. Legislator Crowley. Legislator D'Angelo.
Yes.
Legislator Goulman. Legislator Montgomery. Legislator Regan.
Yes.
Legislator Russo. Legislator Sage.
Yes.
Chairman Birmingham.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item number 6, I'll make a motion to take off the table. The legislator that had requested this is no longer requesting it. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?